So, Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, was written and directed by Rian Johnson and sees Daniel Craig returning as Benoit Blanc, the detective from the first movie, as he investigates a new case involving a few interesting suspects played by people such as Edward Norton, Kate Hudson, Dave Bautista, Janelle Monáe, Leslie Odom Jr., Catherine Hahn, and that's basically the plot of the movie. So this was a movie that I was looking forward to. I enjoyed the first Knives Out movie. I may not have enjoyed it as much as everyone else, but I still think it's a really well done movie. It definitely surprised me a lot. And the biggest surprise about this movie was the fact that it went to Netflix. And that's, instead of being released theatrically, they were like, oh, we're going to put this on Netflix. And then about a month later, they're like, okay, we're going to put it in some theaters for a week. And so I wanted to see it in theaters before it got out on Netflix, and it was spoiled for me. So I saw this movie, and I will say this, even though I'm not really the biggest fan of Knives Out, I do like it. I think this is a better movie than Knives Out. So what did I like? Well, mainly the performances of this movie are really good. Daniel Craig, I thought he was much better here as Benoit Blanc than he was in Knives Out. A lot of the other performances are really good. Janelle Monáe, she's really good. Edward Norton, he's pretty good. Kate Hudson made me laugh a lot throughout this entire movie. She was really good. Dave Bautista, I thought he was really good in this movie too. A lot of the actors do a really good job in this movie. And I would say this movie is really funny, and there are a lot of moments where you kind of have to think about the jokes and like, oh, okay, that's actually really funny and like really shocking in kind of retrospect, like what some of the things they are applying. That made me laugh a little bit more. And I also, like with Knives Out, I was a little iffy about the commentary, but looking back on it, the commentary is probably the best part of the movie and probably the most well handled of the movie. Here, the commentary, I like it a lot too. And it's clear that Rian Johnson is using his critiques about the world and put them in these movies. And I think that's a really smart thing to do. And this is definitely different from Knives Out, and like it focuses on a different type of problem in the world. I do think that. And also, there are a lot of twists and turns with this movie as well. You kind of expect that with a Rian Johnson movie, how he always subverts his movies in some way. And it's definitely surprised me in a lot of ways. It wasn't like in the first movie where it was basically revealed in the first third, like, here's what's really going on here. It kind of is more of a halfway mark where we find out where it's going on, like what's going on here. And I think as a movie on its own, it actually kind of stands pretty well. It doesn't really need Knives Out to really, doesn't really need the first Knives Out movie to be like, relevant. I think it just stands on its own as its own mystery. And I think that's really good. And I definitely want to watch this thing again. I can't wait for this thing to go on Netflix so I can go back and see some of the moments where when you finally figure out what's going on with this movie, you can kind of go back and be like, oh, I didn't even realize this the first time. And I kind of like that with a lot of movies where something is different in retrospect, and I kind of want to go back and knowing what I know now, I think it would be a lot more interesting to see it from that angle now, which I feel like that was missing from the first Knives Out movie because of the structure of that movie. And this movie definitely has that a little bit more. And it definitely has a different feeling from the first Knives Out movie, which I thought was very well done as well. This was definitely a fun movie. It definitely had a lot of surprises, and I really enjoyed this movie overall. But there were a couple things I didn't care for. One, there's a lot of celebrity cameos in this movie for some reason. Now, to be fair, there are a couple in this movie that they at least play their own characters. But there are some celebrity cameos that are just cameos. Like, why are these people in this movie as themselves? It just kind of doesn't really make sense to me. It's kind of just a throwaway gag. And it's like, it doesn't really make sense, like, how they are really in this movie. And it kind of comes off as more of a distraction than anything else, because the first movie had no celebrity cameos in it whatsoever. Yeah, they had celebrities, but they weren't playing themselves. But this movie just has random cameos by people who are just not connected in any way, shape, or form, and I was just very distracted by that. Also, kind of like, spoiler for the first Knives Out movie, pretty much even though none of the family members truly killed Christopher Plummer in that movie, and they still were kind of awful, disgusting people, and they kind of all got what they deserved at the end, I felt like some characters in the movie just didn't really get their comeuppance, and I kind of felt, I don't know, I just didn't really like that they didn't, and I kind of wished a lot of the characters by the end just kind of got what they deserved, and they just didn't. So, and also, there were a couple missed opportunities. This is kind of a throwaway line, like at one point they're all waiting to be taken out on this boat, and they're all meeting up for the first time, and Catherine Hahn mentions to Daniel Craig, hey, didn't you solve the mystery of the ballerina that one time? And he's like, yes, I did. But I'm thinking, wait, wouldn't it make more sense to connect this to Knives Out and say, oh, you saw the mystery about that the mystery author, right? And it's like, yes, I did. That would have made more sense than just a random case that we never heard about. Unless they were setting up for Knives Out 3. So, we'll see about that. So, I think Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery, I think it's a better movie than the first Knives Out movie. The performances are great from almost everyone involved. I like the commentaries in this movie. It's definitely a fun twist. It's a funny movie, darkly funny movie. The twists are very interesting, and I kind of like that a lot more in this movie. And I think it just stands on its own compared to the first Knives Out movie. And even though I don't like the celebrity cameos, and I kind of noticed some missed opportunities, and kind of would tweak the ending a little bit by the end, I still think this is worth watching. It was definitely worth watching on a big screen, and I will definitely catch this again when it hits Netflix in a couple weeks. So I will give Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery, I'll go pretty high on this one. I'll give it 3.5 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what's your favorite murder mystery movie? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.